Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and get ready for another episode of Mixed Martial Mindset with John Fitch. John Fitch has an excellent website that I encourage everybody to go check out right now. Go to the YouTube icon right up here. It's going to take you to John's page where you've been doing a lot more interviews in this new John Fitch Knows Nothing format. Some pretty big names. I mean, Jamie Kilstein, he's pretty big. I caught some of that the other day. I didn't know who JP was, but he had a really interesting story about his marijuana business and jiu-jitsu and all these great stuff. Why don't you tell people about that show and kind of the transition into this after the first month or so?
Yeah, so I did about a little over a year of my shake breaks where, I had a morning shake where I had some time to sit down in front of the camera and live stream and talk to people. And then did that for a while. And then I decided to switch it over to a podcast. So I rebranded to John Fitch Knows Nothing. We had episode 27 the other day. But I do pretty much every weekday at 9:30 a.m. But I also, when I get the opportunity to talk to somebody, I'll do it whenever. And if I can live stream it, I will. So I've had a few interviews. They've all gone pretty well. Just playing around with being curious and asking questions. Get the experts to tell me what's going on because I don't know anything.
Well, I think people appreciate a conversation, and I think you've been doing a really great job with that. I'm encouraged by it. I think it's awesome. It shows you're growing. The thumbnails are there. Guys, go over, give them a sub right now. Make sure you notice I got subscribed. I'm going to ring the bell. Look at that. I'm ringing the bell for all right now, and you guys should do the same. If you want to catch the audio version of this podcast after the fact or share it with people, it will be available on thegruelingtruth.com along with other great podcasts, including the audio
John
version
Fitch
of
Knows
yours.
Nothing. Yeah, the audio version of mine, John Fitch Knows Nothing, is there also.
So make sure to check that out. John, I guess the big sporting news, because there weren't big MMA cards. There was a hidden, invisible Bellator card that you couldn't even watch on their website. Normally when they make it available on their app, which I have, right? But it's a diminishing app. It's not on Xbox. It's not on... I haven't seen it on any of the other stores. It's basically on Android and iOS, so you have to watch it on your phone or tablet.
Is that the Zone or is that Bellator's actual app?
No, Bellator's actual app. It's not available on the Zone. That's my point. I pay for the Zone. I paid the $100. What's going on, Coker? They have this weird deal with the London cards, the UK cards, where they don't put it on. And even with the Israeli card, as I understand it, that was on a delay everywhere unless you...
Dude, it's content wars, bro. It's been going on for a little while. I talked about this for the last couple of years. I've talked about the content wars. Everybody's trying to get control over the eyeballs. So they're fighting over the content. We're going to end up with like two companies or just one company, God forbid, that has access to everything.
Well, it's kind
of like Disney Plus.
There's like 5 tops, and they're all in bed with the government. I mean, you look at Disney, for instance, right now. Disney Plus is the big thing, the launch of Disney Plus. Everybody's talking about The Mandalorian, John, and I watched the first episode. It's pretty good. Other than that, I could care less. I've never been a Hulu guy. But the ESPN Plus, for guys like me in the United States who don't know how to use a VPN, like myself, who I caught the best deal I've been able to find to actually pay for this stuff and make sure it's reliable. But you're paying a $5 paywall a month to get in there, or you're going to have to bundle it with a pay-per-view, right? So they get you for the year. You might as well bundle it with Disney Plus and this and that. And it's not only a watered-down product, but Disney has been in bed with the government since the 40s and 50s. I mean, without Disney...
Hamburgers all around.
I mean, without Disney, John, first of all, the World War II effort is very, very, very obvious. For instance, they have that Donald Duck cartoon where they have the German stereotype, and they have, the Japanese stereotype, and even I think the Russian stereotypes are in there, despite them being the Allies.
There's some racist ass shit there, too.
It's... But
some of those old 50 cartoons.
The space program, man, NASA, the wide world of Disney and NASA were synonymous with one another. The space programs out there, bringing that into fruition. Even Kubrick and him doing 2001: A Space Odyssey. It was basically an advertisement for the upcoming moon landings. You can watch documentaries on it, and all these things were promoted by Disney. We've had this for a while, but the consolidation, I think, is over the top when you look at how much media Disney now owns, especially in the entertainment realm, in the sports realm. I mean, they own Star Wars. They own Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
They already own the entire Disney empire. They basically own the UFC, and you know what? We might as well get into it before we even cover the invisible Bellator card, where really there was only one match that we shouldn't even be talking about. How about this one, John? Talk about a show. USADA announces major changes to UFC anti-doping policy. Have you seen this yet?
I saw that. I saw it. I tried to skim through it, but I could not make heads or tail. It seems like they're trying to get rid of penalties from like small amounts or something.
They're basically just saying,
picograms is no longer going to be like a thing.
We're going to do whatever the fuck we want. That's what it says. That's it. I mean, well, look, we got bought by WME Entertainment. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want because every time there's a trace amount or a picogram or whatever, they even said it was like, forget about just the supplements, types of meats that we're eating. We're quoting. So, you know, like you said, with the UFC performance centers, with selective enforcement before this, with the scandals that have gone around, their top money-making guy, in my opinion, pay-per-view wise, at least on the regular, John Jones, because Conor McGregor, hey, he was fighting in January. It's weird. There's not a card for him to fight on in January, John, and they keep pushing that back. Well, we haven't heard anything about those pesky rape allegations that now date all the way back to December 10th, almost a year old. Still almost a mainstream media blackout. I mean, if you read some of this stuff, it's pretty apparent what they're doing. They're basically saying we're going to enforce when we want, how we want.
That's a word salad way to say it, with their big long statement.
I mean,
it's very, very lawyer-esque written.
I'm just saying that, you know, you've been talking about how this is WWE wrestling for a while. And
it is. I think that's what they intend. I think that's what they secretly believe it to be. I think that they're lying to people, saying, "Oh yeah, it's a real sport. We'll regulate it so that I don't know." But I don't know. They treat it like it is pro wrestling.
Did you see that Hunt basically lost the very last part of his lawsuit?
I didn't see that.
No, I mean, like, so you look at Hunt. He didn't have kind words to say. Let's bring that up from the anti. We'll do it live. Hunt UFC decision. He didn't have kind words to say. Mostly dismissed. All but one claim. No, it's gone as of today. Let's see, or yesterday. Anytime. I think within the past week. Yes, here it is. Mark Hunt blasts UFC as part of the lawsuit. Let's see. What's he say? I tried to make things even on the battlefield of MMA, but again, the cheating company with all of its billions, they ripped everyone off and win again. The former K1 Kickboxing said on Instagram, someone will die against a steroid-using cheat, and your shit rip-off company will be at fault. I am not the first to sue this rip-off company, and sure as hell won't be the last to sue the UFC. You can't keep ripping fighters off and run monopoly on the market. Someone's going to put you down. You know what? Let's talk about that. I mean, how are you trying to do that? Because you've been in this fight for a long time.
Yeah, and Mark, we reached out to him when he was going through his stuff, and like, you know, these guys are doing things and saying stuff, but you know, the people who are actually working to change things are getting ignored. We've worked the most, we've done the most, we've gotten the most ground with the stuff we're doing, but like the guys just won't commit. I don't know if I think they want immediate gratification. They want something right now. And the Ali Act, getting that bill passed, the Expansion Act passed, and the lawsuit were a long road, and guys didn't want to take that road. But it's the only road.
I mean, how much long? I mean, right now, where are you at legally in that road?
Well, we had evidentiary hearings in the class action antitrust lawsuit, and then the judge will come to a decision within the next year. I mean, he may have already come to a decision, but he's got to write like a big explainer or whatever, but he'll come to a decision, and we're looking for our class certification. So if we have class certification, then we have a case, and people will start preparing for trial. So we could have another, 5 years total of everything, right? Because we win, it goes to appeal.
Oh.
And we have to go, right? So like we have to go through the appeal process. So it's going to take at least so. And we started this, 5 years ago, and a lot of people were not willing to jump in with us.
I mean, let's talk about some of the fighters who have jumped in. I believe Kung Lee's still a part of that, right? Randy's still a part of Randy Couture.
Kung Lee, Randy, Nate Quarry, and Kyle Kingsbury.
And that's it, though. I mean,
Ryan Jimmo was also, but he was in an accident. He was hit by a car and died last year.
Yeah. It's been a while. I think it's been over a year. I remember when that happened.
That's right.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I was like, I was still in Vegas. That's real. It was probably 2 years ago. I was like leaving from a different door and like looking over my shoulder and like walking around my car all the time after that happened. Because
it wasn't he, from what I understood, he got
they didn't catch the guy who did it yet. And
yeah. And then was like run over by guys in a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is insane. That's not the way I want to go out. I mean, not that there's a good way to go out, but that's definitely not the way I would like to. With this, I mean, it just shows. I mean, let's recap for a second what the UFC has done just in the last month alone. They made up a belt. They brought out a big movie celebrity to display that belt in a spectacle for ESPN.
He was probably forced under contract.
Yes, they've restructured now their entire deal with
the drug testing agency.
Yeah. They've restructured the USADA deal altogether. So now it's like whatever. They'll just do it. They'll openly do what they want. And they beat. They already won Mark Hunt's lawsuit, but the very end of it, done. I mean, they're on a roll. They're rolling those McGregor dice and hoping, boy, we really hope when this woman takes the money and we can get him in a fight. I think that's the only reason they haven't announced that fight. And still,
they may. Who knows? They may try to go do their IPO and go public before things get too bad for them.
I mean,
they build a lot of hype around it. Everybody's excited about it. Everything's cool.
You think that's the move? Really. That's a big move.
I mean, it's a big risk, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like the Ali Act is so obvious and free agency is so obvious that it's going to happen. They've got to know. They can't be that, arrogant to think that change isn't going to come. Like, it's happened in every other single sport that's ever existed in the last 100 years. So they've got to be prepared at some level. I think that's why they did they're talking about doing boxing, and then they did the fake BMF belt. Was all because they're preparing, because they're going to open their market up more by doing boxing also, and instead of doing the IBC, WBC, IBO titles that are normally controlled by sanctioned bodies, they'll just make up a belt, and they'll have boxers come fight for a bunch of money, and they'll just make up some kind of whatever belt they want to for it.
Well, they've positioned themselves well to do it, and the thing is that the only, at least visible competition in the United States, I'd love to say the PFL is visible, but really not that much, especially now that it's on ESPN Plus and it's been bought out by ESPN. I think you see it less and less. You used to at least see it on NBC Sports. Now maybe you see like a piece of it on ESPN too. And it sucks for the people that, actually bought into ESPN Plus just for PFL. Well, then you don't get the whole thing on ESPN Plus either. It's ridiculous, man. I mean, I can't stand all these streaming services that do this to you, and you don't even get all the fights. But Bellator being that competition, they basically put on a show fight for did you see that knockout?
The MVP?
Yeah.
Yeah, go in there, stand straight up, and he's going to knee you.
I mean, he hit him with, I think this was just a right hand against this guy. This guy was way smaller. They're not even putting him in with, like, a guy his size. And
put him in with, like, a good kickboxer.
I mean, dude.
There's no good kickboxer that could be like, hey, yeah, you want to fight this guy? He's got no ground. Like, I don't know.
I mean, Paul Daly at least
Joe
called him out
Schilling
after
or
the fact.
somebody.
Said the matchmaking was a joke, which it is. You
Mhm.
know, it's tough because you still haven't heard back. I mean, come on, man. You should be the 170 champ right now. They're promoting this guy. They're giving him cans to crush. They've given him, I think, what is it? 2 cans to crush after being knocked out by Lima, all of which took place after the Rory McDonald fight, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's 3
And
fights.
people can argue and be like, well, the risk you're taking by going into that fight. Well, like at some level, the commissions need to protect people. Like guys are going in there to get knocked out for a little bit of money. They're not being realistic. Like they know that they don't really stand a chance. Like the people around them, the promoter knows. Like that's why he's in there, is to get knocked out. Like they got to leave some protection for the athlete. I mean, yeah, let's give him some CTE. As long as we get that, highlight clip, it's worth it. He understands the risk. Like, how do you get around? I don't know. And how do you live with? How do you like? Oh yeah, that was a good matchup. That guy's just phenomenal. Like, how do you deflect the responsibility of what if one of these days gets really really injured?
Do you mean like when Cyborg got his skull crushed in as a 43-year-old man who probably hadn't won a fight for 4 to 5 years? You mean like that?
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah. What if he would have died? I mean, now the sports gets put on hold, or the whole promotion goes out of business. I got a bunch of fighters who've got no jobs, flood the market. Everybody's pay drops.
All I'm saying is that I don't know. I don't know that there's a payday worth that. Is there a payday worth that? That's not, guys. Is there a payday? Anybody out there? And again, I don't know that there is. And I like Evangelista. I used to watch him all the time back in the Strike Force days.
Mm-hmm.
You'd see him about there, but there's a time and a place, and when you're setting this guy up, and this was his toughest competition to date at that. I mean, the only top level guys.
You're telling me you can't compile in this day and age, with all the technology, you can't compile some kind of like fighter database that has rankings and where it becomes a medical liability for you to have a certain guy fight another guy.
I mean, that I would think that when you look at something like that, everybody wants to give somebody, I guess, a puncher's chance. You see, for instance, even Jake Hagar in the Bellator ring. He's trying to transition from pro wrestling and a real wrestling background, but he's had trouble in there. He should have got a DQ, in my opinion, at the Mohegan Sun. It was the second time he needed the guy. He got a no contest. I get it. In the beginning of your career, but at the same time, they're clearly not at the physical level that you are, Jake Hagar. They're clearly, some of these guys are literally dealing meatball sandwiches. The one guy was like a sub shop sandwich guy, and it's like, all right, I get it, but you can put him in there with somebody who has maybe one amateur fight out of KOTC, somebody who's a little bit more of a physical specimen, but that hurts them. This is a business, right? What if they lose, John?
It's like the old circus. They roll into town. They're like, who wants to fight this guy? You, all right, come on up. You got your medicals done? All right, you're in.
I want to shift gear a little bit to censorship. We were talking Disney earlier, and I don't know if you saw this, but
Chinese Disney.
Well, people were making GIFs with like the baby Yoda character out of this Mandalorian thing, and again, it's a GIF. Disney has basically had them taken down and cease and desisted them. I mean, here's the thing: we got all these different changes coming to YouTube on December 10th. And Fun Lovin' B, thank you for the super chat. I'll read it after making my point, talking to John here. We have all these changes coming to YouTube. We had the Tinfoil Hat podcast, which helps me reach a huge audience when I do go on there. And he's a comedian. You know, he's been on Rogan several times, and they just took him off 4 days ago, saying that he was illegally selling prescription supplements as a sponsor when he had like the Blue Chew, I guess the chewable dick pills, and
Mm-hmm.
some CBD product. It was all bullshit. A million of these YouTubers, you know, have those type of things they sell. You know that. And the
Mm-hmm.
only reason I think he's back on is because Rogan called YouTube fucking specifically. And it's good to have friends in high places. Otherwise, this would just be another victim of
Mm-hmm.
this war on free speech. And believe me, Sam's not a conservative. You know, I don't have to agree with everything that Sam Tripoli says, but you know, I don't believe in deplatforming people, and I think a
Nope.
massive one is about to come.
Yeah, before the next election cycle, that would make sense. They'd want to shut up voices from either side. Anybody who's anti-war, you're getting deleted. You're going to be deleted from the internet, at least until after the elections.
I think I think it goes beyond that. I mean, until after the election, once they kind of unperson you, they don't really let you back.
Mm.
You know, I mean, Jones isn't allowed back. This is the first time that I've seen one get swift justice on YouTube. Fun loving B says, at the end of the day, all professional athletes are a commodity to their employer, and they will use them as a commodity. And then that leads to questionable diadioms by employers because it is a business. I'm sure you'd agree with that.
Yep, we are the product, and we are the labor. So we are a commodity, but we're a self-owned commodity. We own ourselves. So pay us, bitch.
Well, I mean, Deontay
I mean,
Wilder got
yeah,
paid.
like you should be able. I mean, it really comes down to free agency. Like you want to put it in layman's term, it's free agency. We don't have free agency. Like you sign, 9-fight deals, and then your last fight or your second to last fight of the contract, like depends on whether or not you signed another contract, like another extension. And if you didn't, oh well, guess what? You get the toughest guy you can possibly fight in the division, and you're going to be on a undercard. Nobody's going to hear about you or hear about the fight. And if you lose, we'll cut you. like that's that's what you have to do. Is you have to be devalued in order to be released. Where you a free market, you should be able to, or a free agency would allow you to be free at your most valuable point.
I mean, look, it's tough because I've actually heard you talk on your show about how the UFC is doing what the UFC needs to do to not only remain profitable but gain more and more profit and control. And by their perspective, they're doing the right things. You know.
Yep.
So I mean, how do you and others break free? Obviously, you need more than 5 fighters to sign on to a lawsuit like the one you're in.
Well, we're representing the whole class of fighters from 2000, what was it, 2010 till today, and yeah, it's like I don't know what you can do. Things would go a lot faster if more people supported and went with it. Like it would definitely be a much more expedient timeline than what we have now. But yeah, it comes down to free agency. We want free agency. As long as we have free agency, then that takes away the stranglehold power they have with controlling the belts, because at least you'd have an opportunity to go and be promoted by somebody else. You wouldn't have to be forced to continually sign that, because that's something we found with the lawsuit is that fighters were never offered their contracts on their last fight. You never got to your last fight. It was the second to last fight, and you wouldn't get your bout agreement until you signed an extension, and then you get your bout agreement for your second to last fight, and then you'd already signed into an extension. So like if you said no, like I don't want to sign the extension right now, well, okay, they'd sit you on the shelf for a while, right? Then you're poor and you have to fight. So then they make you fight the worst possible matchup for you, somebody who's super tough, has no name, right? So they try to set you up to lose. And guys know this, and a lot of times guys lose and then they get cut, and people know. Like people inherently know that's what their strategy is, to like get you to sign on the contract. So people always end up signing into, deals that aren't even really negotiated because they have no choice.
And really, even without the UFC, none of this super fight stuff is possible with those contracts. Who was it? Ali Abdiaziz tweeted out that they had pretty much had everything signed on the dotted line to get Khabib and Floyd Mayweather in a fight, but Dana and the UFC wouldn't go for it, or basically wouldn't make the deal to sign on. And I believe that. They were able to do it with McGregor, and that's probably the biggest pay-per-view of the last 5 to 10 years, easily. In fact, I don't know that there has ever been a bigger pay-per-view than that. Someone's got to be clamoring to get to those numbers again. Deontay Wilder, man, he looked like I watched that fight, and Ortiz. And that's the thing, Deontay's one of those guys. We were talking about all these streaming services, John. He didn't sign on for that. He's pretty much just a free guy. He got that. I think it was Fox pay-per-view. But you could see him anywhere in the next fight. He wants to do Tyson Fury. So what happens now? Who gets it? ESPN, are they going to do like a pay-per-view style event without the UFC? They haven't done it so far.
That's part of the negotiating process, because they the two promotions will have to negotiate terms of who gets to produce, where it's going to be shown, and then there's compensation monetarily. So somebody will get paid more up front, or a percentage, or whatever. So they'll come to an agreement that makes everybody happy. That's one of the reasons why some of these fights don't happen sometimes, is because some people just don't want to work together.
Well, I think that happens a lot, right?
But at the same time, with as frustrating as it is in boxing to get some of the fights you want together, that's their right as a business, to choose to do business together or not, right? Just because I want to see Batman and Superman fight Magneto and Wolverine, doesn't mean that comic books suck. The comic books are dead, right? It's just those two businesses, those two entities would have to come to terms where it was happy and they were both good with doing business together. That's all that's happening right now in boxing. That's why, sometimes the fights don't happen. It's because the businesses don't figure it out.
Well, I think, the heavyweight division, especially in boxing, is probably the most well-known division because of the fact you have multiple champions. Let's be honest, right? I don't think anybody else can name another division, at least Joe Schmo like me, that just kind of follows like casual boxing.
Everybody watches the big guy.
Yeah.
Everybody watches the big guys.
Well, I mean, you know the name Canelo Alvarez, but a lot of times you don't know the name that he's fighting, or you do know Triple G, but you don't know the name he's fighting. So maybe you got two guys in that weight class. You know what I'm saying? But in the heavyweight division, Anthony Joshua, the Klitschko brothers still kind of have a name, even though they haven't fought. Wilder, Tyson Fury, but now Andy Ruiz, who that's coming up in 2 weeks. That's fire. I'm glad I have DAZN for that one. I can't wait, because Ruiz looks in incredible shape. He's probably made enough money where he can really, dedicate the time.
Everything into training, yeah.
And put it in like he's never done before. And the guy was already scary as fuck. I mean, I watched.
He looks like he's probably the most technically good out of all of them.
I mean, he's what? So. What does he say? He's not a small guy either. People think just because he was fighting Joshua, who's a monster, he's 6'3". He's a 6'3" dude. Like, that's a big guy with a big pumpkin head who moves like a cat.
This generation of heavyweights is ridiculous.
I like it. I mean, who do you got? I mean, I think Ruiz tunes him up in a second.
It's in the Joshua fight.
Yeah.
Man, I think 3 rounds.
You think so, huh?
I think so.
I mean,
because they're just going to feel each other out a little bit in the first round, I think.
I think it's tough. I mean, that one's a tough one. It went 7, I think, in the last one, right? So everything got scary in that third round. It might have been 6. It might have been 7, but finally, when he did get him, it was over. I mean, you could tell Joshua didn't want to fight anymore. His back was turned to the guy. He had his mouthpiece out. The thing that I didn't like is when I've seen the recaps, they don't give Ruiz enough credit for how well he was doing in those first 3 rounds. He looked like the dominant fighter to me. He was back.
Me and Chris Tinkle did a watch along, and like within like the first round or so, first few minutes, it's like, oh well, this guy moves really well. It's like,
Yeah.
it was just some name they threw in there to get beat up.
I mean, he, again, he had only lost one fight. It was a split decision. He'd never been put down one time in his career before Anthony Joshua knocked him to the ground. I'm actually excited for that fight. That is a fight that excites me. And DAZN gets some free plugs. I think it's well worth, at least the $100 for the year because I'm sure they have Ruiz under some crazy contract with them as well at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
in order to get
let's
that
talk
fight,
about that.
probably make sure.
In this new world, what does a guy like Ruiz get in subsequent purses because he's never been able to test the pay-per-view market? He just gets kind of thrown in there with some kind of a multi-deal, and maybe they're not the UFC DAZN, they're a broadcaster, but does that create a similar situation, John?
Oh man, possibly. Yeah, so he's locked in there with the title. I didn't even think about that. And then he probably inherits the TV deal that the previous champ had. I don't know. And I don't know how the Ali Act protects against that because it protects against promoters, but not necessarily broadcasters.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about that, I'm sure he's not going to get the money. Like, hey, you beat Joshua and you get his contract, right? Especially since there was an immediate rematch clause in that fight. So Joshua, just like we know Canelo, he got like a $20 million deal with DAZN. It was something ridiculous for like a six fight deal. One of those guys steps in and actually beats Canelo. They may not get that deal, but DAZN probably has them locked in. And I would imagine, especially in the instance where Ruiz came in as like a replacement less than a month later, they really had him by the nutsack.
I mean, I'm sure they probably lowballed him on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It was just, hey, take it or leave it.
Oh, fight sports, combat sports. So what do you think is going to be the next big move for the UFC? Obviously, they have their December card with several championships, right? 170, Colby Covington, Usman. You're unimpressed with both. You think the Fitch train comes through and smashes either one of those guys.
Shows the children how it's done.
Yeah, the children, how it's done. I love it, John. We've got basically, what is it, a month and a half before the end of the year. They usually like to have a really big, bang of a card. They're trying to do it with this 3 championship card. I don't know. I think that this, unfortunately,
3 belt bonanza.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of might fall. Like for me, it could be the best card of the year, right? Those could be bangers of fights. For them, how many pay-per-views do they sell? Is it the biggest fighting card of the year? Probably not. And I think, something like
is that the level of the stars they have now to make the New Year? That's the Christmas New Year's card.
I mean, I think it's December 7th, but I don't think they have
a
bigger
card. What were the other
after
fights
that.
again?
Let's look at it right now. I'm pretty sure it's December. Is that or December 14th? It's the weekend. It's got to be the week after the Ruiz fight. Let's go, UFC.com. We do it live. It's got to be. There it is right there. Kamaru Usman, the 245. I don't want any of that. Oh, it's in a different language because that's when I log in.
Ha!
Where is it?
You speak multiple languages, that's all.
Oh, yeah. Well, I wish I was. I would see. That's one thing I wish I'd taken a little more seriously. You know what I'm saying?
I'll try the app. Works pretty good.
Yeah, this is the next. I think this is next week, right? Yeah, that's December 7th. So that's going up against Ruiz. I'm actually really excited about that. Rosenstruck looks really scary. I think he's really going to hurt Overeem, unfortunately. And like I said, the 14th. But yeah, after that, I mean, don't get me wrong. Ortega, Korean Zombie, that's something I'll watch. But that's it before the end of the year. And then it looks like they're taking a break. I'm sure they'll announce a fight night or two
So
somewhere in
no,
there.
that used to be a big thing. Maybe is the Risen going to be doing one? The New Year's card is
Well, the New
usually
Year's card Bellator is doing in Japan with who is it? Rampage versus Fedor, and then the PFL does their $6 million fights, which I'm probably going to go down for. But the thing is that there's only 6 fights there, I think, in one feature fight. So it starts at like 7 p.m. and it's done before midnight. I remember I got out of New York City like right after the ball dropped. Thank God. Thank God. I don't know. You like the city? I mean, I mean, what's your feeling? You're a West Coast guy. How do you feel when you
Right,
walk
I
into
mean,
that
if I
jungle?
can go, for a week at a time, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had some fun when I was there. I think the 2 trips this summer, made me really like New York. I've had a few good experiences there, so it's definitely good if you got a decent hotel and a walkable place to cool shit. I highly recommend. Food's good, pizza's good.
I mean, I
We
don't know, man.
stumbled upon this Korean barbecue place, pretty fantastic.
I can do up to a week. Like after 1 week, I'm just especially I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can see that because I mean, there's so just buildings. I mean, I had to like breathe a little bit.
well,
Like
you
there's
know,
enough oxygen for everybody. It's okay. Relax.
it's so much, man. And sometimes you just want to get away. And when you after a long day, like I'd be there on a shoot or whatever, we'd be walking around and talking to people, and you want to go to bed, and it's like you just got like that. It's not an ambient nature noise; it's the ambient city noise, and it's just the
Mm,
most random shit. And then you step out of your door again, and it's just a hustle and bustle. I don't know, man. I like it for a little bit. I
I
could
sleep
never
like
do it
a
forever.
baby. I sleep like a baby.
What's that? You sleep like
Sleep
a
like a
baby?
yeah. When I fall asleep, it's just there's no noise.
Is that right? Is that how
Yeah,
you do it, John? Because you work so hard, you get those. What do you get? Like 6 to 8 an hour, or 6 to 8
no,
a
I
night?
think yeah, I get at least 6. I get about 6, 7.
Six,
But
seven.
it's the practice of sleeping in gymnasiums for years and on bus rides to Iowa and places like that. So I think it's practice. Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, but you're also just like an extremely high level,
Mm.
basically disciplined individual. I'm sure
The
that.
years of working out, I'm just tired all the time.
Yeah, but do you? I mean, are there days when John Fitch sleeps in?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't afford to when I have the kiddos.
Yeah,
I might sleep into like 8:30
that's a
on the
sleep in for
weekend.
you. So your day starts what? Like at 6 a.m.
I get
West
up like
Coast.
I get up like 5:36,
Uh huh.
depending if I have the kids or not. But yeah, it's just easier to get stuff done in the morning.
Uh huh.
I
Yeah.
was lifting in the morning regularly, but I'm starting to do that. Put the kids to bed, and then come out, get my lift in, and then go to bed.
So then, when do you call it a night? You're not up past midnight then, almost
ten
ever, huh?
o'clock. I'm trying to be in bed at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your discipline is amazing, John. I don't know how you do it. Like,
it's just what has to happen, man. I can't afford to get up when the kids get up, and then I don't get anything done. Yeah, it's just backed
that's
up.
true. So that gives you like an hour, hour and a half to
Yeah,
yourself to kind of
I
prep your
get
day out.
get it, eat my food, start the day, like whatever thing I have to get ready that day or mentally plan for. It helps.
And then when you have them over vacation, I mean, what's a Thanksgiving like at the Fitch household? You got the parents coming. What's the deal?
No, not this year. So it's just me and the boys. We're gonna go to eat somewhere and then go across the street to play putt putt and video games.
That's
And
awesome. I'm
then
sure the
and
kids are
then they'll
looking
get
forward
they'll
to
get
that.
picked up by their mother and head up to their grandparents' house.
So you get the night off,
Yeah.
huh? But the big party night, John, is the night before, so you don't really get that in.
That's the story I've heard. Yeah.
Oh, you've never been into that?
Well, no, they're actually they're going to be well, I always worked out. They're going to get dropped off in the morning, so I'm not going to have them that night. So I'll be out. I get to experience uh, the night before Thanksgiving as a civilian.
Yeah, I mean the way all right. So I'm like in a pretty big drinking town. It's going
Mm-hmm.
downhill. In fact, last weekend, so It is. I mean, before I got back into doing this again, I was running a bar. That was my last quote unquote day job, but it wasn't really a day job since we're open nights and it's 24/7, 365, literally open on Christmas. So the one other bar that does business in town, or I should say did business in town and has been around forever, is this place called the Sip and Sale. It's not a big place. It's kind of a dive. Before this other one that I ran, it's still close to my heart, John. This last weekend, they broke records, John. This, by the way, is I live in my college town too. So like I've been going to this place since I was like 18 years old. They have a maximum capacity of 178 people. They had over 300 people in there. 90+% of the people in there were underage. They confiscated, I believe, 140 plus fake IDs. It might even been
140.
Yeah, wait, hold on. They charged 223 people with underage drinking. It's the biggest bust in New York State history. And they could have charged more, as they said 90% were underage. They ran out of ticket paper. So they let about 40 to 50 people walk. Now, that's going to put a damper on the night before Thanksgiving. That was a roundabout spot that you might see people you haven't. There are a few other bars, but times are changing, man. I mean, for especially New York State, I know you live on the other dictatorial coast, but Cuomo, through executive order, just can't have tobacco products unless you're 21. I had a vape shop literally open up in June. They must have spent $25,000 to $50,000 on inventory. Now, 90% of the people that bought their product can't do so legally anymore. I mean, that's incredible to me. No one voted on that. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to get out of this. I'm trying to find somewhere that has some kind of life that isn't New York, that isn't California. I liked Austin while I left there. You've traveled the country. Where do you dream of going away to?
I like Huntington Beach, California. I'm starting to like San Diego.
Yeah.
I hear the girls in Arizona are nice.
They are. I've been there once. I did like a week in Scottsdale. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
Scottsdale's a good place.
John, you're making me, especially because it snowed here. Yesterday or 2 days ago? Quite a bit of snow, actually. We got a couple inches. It just makes me think it's time to get out of a state where Cuomo can just tell us what to do, and we kind of have to bend over and take it, and we're taxed out the asshole. And meanwhile, I'm like next to New Hampshire, live free or die, and they don't even have a sales tax, John. There's no sales tax in New Hampshire. Like that's I need to get like a P.O. box there and just order shit. Because now I get fucking taxed on Amazon and eBay. They pass that through, man. I don't know if I'm ranting and raving here, but I'm not big on the control. Fitch, what do you got coming up? What's next in the life of John Fitch?
Well, I've got pumping out the podcasts. Working on my website, johnfitch.net. Working on some books. Hopefully, I get some headway on some stuff soon. But I am available for small groups and seminars. People can sign up through my website. Yep. And I also have my Patreon going. I should have another video up today, later. But I have technique videos, some blogs, and some other stuff.
Well, John, I think we'll wrap it up. We got a good 50 minutes in on this one. Unless you got anything else to say or you're thinking of any other fights coming up. Because really, I mean, it kind of sucks, guys, but mixed martial mindset. There wasn't a lot of fights out this weekend. You had the Bronze Bomber knocking out poor Ortiz with that goofy look on his face, but that wasn't it. No BKFC, no backyard brawl fights, no celebrity fights, no Logan Paul, no KSI, no UFC, and the one Bellator thing. It was literally in 240p on my phone. I was pissed. I don't think they wanted anybody to watch that card. I'm dead convinced of it, John.
You think they're trying to test their viewership through the app, or their bandwidth, or what they can support through the app, or anything?
That's not. See, here's the
thing. They plan to whoops, we can't show this. So might as well put it on the app. But,
all right. I'll give you an example why I don't think that's the case. So DAZN, they started their coverage a few weeks ago. I don't know, 6 o'clock or something, right? But they had even earlier prelims on. They were on Bellator.com. They were on the app as well. All the prelims and stuff before the Zone's broadcast. They looked crystal clear in 720p. I did dishes. I brought the goddamn phone with me while I did it. It looked awesome. This week, I couldn't watch the London one on the website like I could the previous ones that were also available on my phone on the app. And when I tried two different phones, both hooked up to fine Wi-Fi, obviously, and it looked like shit. Scott Coker, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to screw over the fans like you're trying to screw over John Fitch, not give him the title shot? Because we won't have it. We won't have it. All right, guys. We will be back next week, hopefully with more fights to talk about. So you could subscribe here, thumbs this video up. I'm doing it 3 to 7 times a day on multiple subjects, including a lot of Epstein news. Big Epstein news. The prison guards have their faces out there, their names. They said there will be 100 hours of footage, and they will be vindicated. We hit 16,000 followers on Twitter. You can check out all my documentary films here. And I got a GoFundMe. That's how I do it financially, guys. So if you like this, thumbs it up, share it with others. Remember, gruelingtruth.com for the audio version after the fact. I love you guys, and I will see you all on the flip side.
Laters.